Vivek Ramaswamy spoke to the Libertarian Convention the day before Donald Trump did. If you watched both speeches, you'd note that Vivek seemed to have a much warmer reception. I find that interesting because Vivek's message and Trump's were essentially identical, although the delivery of the two speeches very different. Now, part of it may have had to do with scheduling differences. Because on Saturday, there were likely competing events going on at the convention that might have drawn away some of the people who interested in causing an uproar. But I suspect there's more to it than that. Now, Vivek definitely gives a better impression of leading libertarian, both here and on the campaign trail, which may have helped him out a bit in terms of having a friendlier audience. But he is very much an apologist for Trump. So if Trump is worthy of a room of booing libertarians, why not Vivek? Vivek did catch a few catcalls, but he has worked crowds like this before and he was very deft at deflecting and shutting those down. I would say his delivery was excellent. He clearly understood the room. And libertarians in general expect to have their egos stroked by having the speaker drop a few snippets of pretentious nuggets in their presentations. And Vivek did this, and this is an acknowledgement that the speaker knows the room has some intellectuals and probably a lot of pseudo intellectuals in attendance. Vivek did a great job of sounding like a smart friend you might consider hanging out with. And this is another area where Trump has some weakness. Trump's rhetoric and persona is populist in nature, and he has to remain folksy in order to remain in character, which limits how much he can uh, be a libertarian chameleon, perhaps would be a good way of saying it. Now, Vivek is very good at something that libertarians are often bad at. He's good at making contact with areas of disagreement, moving away from that disagreement rapidly and re engaging at a point of mutual agreement. For that alone, libertarians should study this speech. Vivek walked into the room with a test message from Trump. If you listen carefully, Vivek broached the subject of the Libertarian Party either endorsing or nominating Trump. He used almost the exact same words Trump used the next day. The reaction wasn't that good, and I suspect Vivek expected that because he very quickly moved away from it. The fact Trump used the same phrase the next day indicates to me that he was committed to using it for the outside world. And Vivek was there to give him an idea of how bad the crowd would react to it. So, in reference to Trump bringing the idea of being nominated up, I don't think he actually misread the room. He cared far more about getting the message out beyond the room than how the room would react. Now, Vivek comes across as genuine and intelligent, and he had a debate with the LP presidential candidate after his speech. It was more of a Q&A session with Dave Smith running things. In my opinion, this is a man the LP should stay friendly with. He's likely a rising star, and if Trump doesn't follow through to put a libertarian in the cabinet, Vivek very well may someday. Well, that kind of brings us back around to our original question. Why was Vivek allowed to speak pretty much freely and Trump had to deal with a constant negative buzz from the crowd? Uh, referenced my previous video on Trump's speech. I believe Trump showing up was an accomplishment for the current Libertarian chair. The past chair over the last month has made a point of stirring up the more, shall we say, emotional people in the LP prior to the convention. This leads me to be even more convinced that negative rumblings were less aimed at Trump than they actually were at the chair, Angela McArdle. Now, to be quite clear, Trump not explaining his most egregious policy failures and essentially calling for the nominations were things worthy of a boo. The constant freakout that was in progress would seem more manufactured than organic. Vivek was spared this, likely for three reasons. Although Vivek was quite a good catch in terms of a speaker for the LP, he certainly wasn't the prize. Disrupting his speech would not have hurt the current chair very much. Second, those orchestrating the disruption would have telegraphed their methodology, which could have made it easier for them to be shut down if they tried it a second time with Trump. And third, Vivek isn't a honky. The supporters of the old leadership didn't want to end up being put in woke hell by ruining the speech of a man of Indian descent. I've heard through other channels that the vocal contingent of malcontents at Trump's event was planted. Now, I don't entirely trust the source. Was anybody there who can confirm or deny the idea that essentially this appeared to be an orchestrated event? And I also am aware of the Star Child incident going on in the background that triggered some of the noise that mainstream media was coaching as directed at Trump when it was just basically aimed at the security guards. So, comments below. If you were there and you know something about what was going on in the crowd, be interested in hearing your take. I've talked to a few people who were there, hearing similar things. Also, what do you think of Vivek? Do you think, is he as libertarian as he seems to be? And do you think he has a future in politics? Comment below, let me know. Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithm brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, please consider checking out my other titles and subscribing. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, please share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.